All right, boys and
Oh,
girls, girls and boys, and also super intelligent shades of the color sky blue, pink. Welcome, one and all, and welcome for your first ride on the crazy train here on the channel to Edward slash Eddie. Um, yeah, tell us all about yourself, and then we'll outline why you're so special.
okay. Sounds good. Thank you for having me on. My name is Eddie Goeke or Edward Goeke. I typically go by Eddie though. I'm 20 years old. I live in Southern Illinois, US for anyone that's of foreign descent. And I'm currently a quite incipient health influencer on YouTube primarily, but also Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and all that. Pretty inchoate, but determined. So I'm going to cut straight to the chase here. I'm going to tell everyone exactly why I'm here, what my goals are, and exactly what I plan to do. Okay. So I had a pretty average life growing up. Um, that included health-wise as well. No diseases at all, nothing going on at all until 3 months after I turned 16 years old. So I came down with hypermobile EDS, which is a certain manifestation of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, hence EDS, which is characterized by hypermobility of the bones. It's characterized by weak ligaments. So basically, the bones would move around too much in my body and still do actually, impinging on surrounding nerves and arteries. Now you can probably infer how dangerous that can be, especially when you're talking about nerves of the heart and the neck that lead down to the diaphragm and all that. So impingement then leads to degeneration if chronic, and that's exactly what happened to me. I dealt with that for years. Extreme, excruciating pain. Very odd symptoms that doctors have never even heard of. Like, for example, the most salient of which is actually pain that I would experience when experiencing any emotion, even when communicating with other people and watching television. I could not engage in those activities. Any pain, any emotion would induce pain to to excruciating levels, debilitating levels to the point where I'd hit the floor sometimes. So very I got gaslit a lot by my family because no one could actually see that there was a problem. This is a very trite issue. This is a very hackneyed issue. Everyone deals with this nowadays because doctors, well, don't really know anything except how to prescribe a drug. So if there's no actual apparent issue, they're not going to prescribe anything and they will tell you that it is in your head. Actually, yeah, let me correct myself. They will prescribe anti-anxiety medications. Experientially speaking, I know that for a fact. But I didn't just hear that from doctors. I heard that from my family, even ones that, we're on good terms now, good intentions. They told me that I was making it all up. And if anyone knows what that feels like, you know that eventually, no matter how much you do know that that's not true, you start to believe them. There is part of you that starts to believe it. So for 4 years, I pushed through it. I went to school, not even being able to really walk around. I had POTS symptoms, tachycardia that was, for all intents and purposes, homeostatic. It would not ameliorate whatsoever. It would not be curtailed by any intervention, nothing at all. Dealt with blood pressure swings the same way. You can't really communicate with anyone if emotions cause you pain, because even ones that most people don't really feel, you're still feeling it. It's just, subconscious. But I could feel it all. So I couldn't engage in anything. It was a very, very dismal time. But I kept going to work. I worked myself very hard before I kept trying to figure out what was wrong with me while also simultaneously having another voice in my head, as well as other external voices telling me that there's nothing wrong with me at all. Couldn't figure out what was going on with me. Had multiple tests, a GI scope done, esophageal scope, a neuropathy test, I guess you could say, where I was told that I have some slight neuropathy in my elbows and I just need to gain some weight. It got down to things like that. It was ridiculous. And we live in a medical dead zone, so it didn't really help. So I wore myself down over and over again, continuously wearing myself down, going to work, physical, strenuous labor. Then I got another job that was far more, you could amble a little bit more. It wasn't as laborious and onerous, I guess you could say. But at the same time, at that point, I'd done enough damage to the point where anything was dealing me damage. So that happened until January 9th of 2022, where I completely buckled. I had to go on leave for 2 weeks, and 2 weeks, then I was completely bereft of any physical activity. And you can kind of infer what would happen there. I got worse. I was the only thing keeping me up was movement. So I got worse. And February of 2022 was the worst month of my life. I was staring up at the ceiling 24 hours sometimes because I couldn't sleep, wondering if I was going to live to see the next day. And at 18 years old, at that point, it was surreal that I was dealing with it at such a young age. I could not understand for the life of me what was going on. 40 hours of no sleep sometimes because my body wouldn't let me go to sleep. And there's a lot of symptoms that I haven't covered yet. And I say yet, there is extensive detail of my entire story listed in my book, which we will cover soon, I presume. But it's very lengthy. I cannot get all of it out, but those symptoms played a role in why I was not able to sleep and all that. So eventually I did more research. I did studying and reviewing of all different things. And I came across a clinic 12 to 14 hours away from me at least that actually healed this condition. It was regenerative. So I will eventually, this story does have a good ending, happy ending. I will eventually make a full recovery, but it is a very slow process, a very gradual process. I got there April 8th, got a little analysis done on me. And the main doctor there told me that I kid you not, I can't forget this quote. If you had come any later, you were on your way for something catastrophic. I got my condition verified, corroborated. Verification for 4 years of dealing with these diametric antithetical thing to that. Start healing in and of itself. So during that time, it was a very lonely time. No family really there to speak of. Luckily, my grandmother lived an hour and a half away from the clinic, so I stayed there. But all I had was I was debilitated. I couldn't actually explore the area. Florida is a really nice place. That's where it is. Florida is the where the clinic is. Really nice place, but I couldn't enjoy it. So what I did is basically effectively from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed, I just studied. I studied not only nutrition, I studied statistics and research methods later on because I wanted to actually be able to interpret what I was reading. I studied biochemistry to a certain degree. Back then, it wasn't really that significant. And then I studied other things. I dabbled in other things very, tepidly, I guess you could say. I wasn't as assiduous with it. I looked at chemical anthropology. I still don't really understand that too much, though, I'm going to be honest. I focus primarily now on biochemistry, definitely, and then statistics and research methods underneath that. But I did that from effectively the time I woke up to the time I went to bed. And I guess to sort of start the closing of the story before we get into questions, I was doing the Gundry diet for a while, which, womp womp, talk about insalubrious, but it was a start because I started to learn about plant toxins. As much as I dislike Dr. Gundry, he knows that plants are not only that, also, this is ephemerally. Every time that I would eat, I'd get blood pressure swings, and it was the only time during my life where I would get super hot and sweaty after eating. So I didn't do that. And then I came across a video August 13th of 2022 where he posted something along the lines of the Randall cycle. Don't fear the Randall cycle is what it was called. Watched it, didn't understand a word. But then August 14th, the following day, you, Bart, came up in my feed critiquing that very video. And I said, really? Someone critiquing someone that I venerate so much, Paul Saladino. So I watched the video, and within the first minute, I was immediately, to be extremely honest, I think this is funny. I couldn't stand you. For so long, I couldn't stand you because I was thinking, really? I didn't know who you were. I didn't know what qualifications, as much as that doesn't really mean anything nowadays. I didn't know what you had. And I thought, before I knew who you were, I thought that you may have been some vegan. I had no idea. I really didn't know. But I couldn't stop watching the video because, it upset me. Ironically enough, I didn't click off the video. I kept watching. And I realized that your views were quite unorthodox, which is usually indicative of more veracity and credibility than the orthodox. So I kept watching. And then I watched more videos. And within the day, I realized the fallacious nature of, I don't know, once again, venerating or advocating for carbohydrates within the diet. And so August 23rd, my birthday, 2022, I started carnivore, and I have not looked back since. I've sort of reintroduced some foods that are still carnivore, like more pork in the forms of, I mean, in a quick pinch, I get some pepperoni and salami that are of the best quality. But for a while, I was doing effectively line diet with butter. And metabolically speaking, very, very important distinction here, because I have a very critical, it was critical before condition. I was doing lion diet with butter. And I, metabolically speaking, felt the best that I've ever felt, which is not a surprise, given what we know. But I have not looked back. And then what ended up happening was, sorry, I'm so bloviating, but this is almost over. I was told, the more I was studying, I was told by my family and friends, the more I talked about it and was telling people about it. I was writing papers and sending them to my friends going, read this. I typed this up because it's really important. And I think that not only is this conducive to effectuating your knowledge of the topic, but also mine. I mean, if you write about it, you'll know more about it. They told me, you should just do it. You should do what Bart does and just do videos. And I went, no, come on, I can't. That's not me, you know? And then the more that I actually started thinking about it, I thought, well, maybe I could be good at it. So I started it up January 20th of this year. I started up publicly the channel, but for 6-7 months preceding that, I wanted to make sure that I was good at it, editing wise and all of that. So I've been recording for that long. I have a superfluous stash in my little abditory on my computer here of all these old videos that I used to record and all that stuff that will be uploaded on my Patreon exclusively and stuff like that, which we'll talk about later. But with that being said, I'm 70% there in terms of ameliorating my condition fully. I am still debilitated to the point where I can't have a physical job though. So I have the privilege of spending 50 hours up to a week working on this content. So that's where we're at. Sorry, that was quite loquacious and all that.
Not at all. It was good. It gives us the full background story, etc., which is awesome. So one of the things, obviously, that got my attention when I watched a little bit of your material was I thought, goodness me, a lot of this seems quite familiar. I thought to myself, and is presented in a way that's quite familiar. For those of you that haven't seen Eddie's YouTube channel at all, what I'm going to do right now is into this video, I'm going to splice in 1 or 2 examples of Eddie doing his thing on his YouTube channel. So here it comes.
Nice. Hello everyone, we're back again with another critique video. Today on the channel we have Mayo Clinic again with a 1 minute and 6 second clip entitled Mayo Clinic Minute. Plant-based diet is encouraged for patients with cancer. Now, of course, if you know anything about anything, you know that it's not, by any sensible person, an auspicious, propitious approach to ameliorating cancer, okay, at all. And we'll get to that later. But what's most humorous and comical about this is that YouTube says from an accredited US hospital, so it's an appeal to authority, and the comments are turned off. Great. So, anyway, let's just go ahead and jump right into this because my camera is going to die anyway, so let me just sum this up real quick.
It's the dietary pattern that the organizations such as the American Institute for Cancer Research and the American Cancer Society recommend is a plant-predominant diet.
And that is exactly why you shouldn't do it, because it is administered and promulgated by misanthropic institutions that profit off of people's sickness. It's just a fact now. That's not a conspiracy. What do the pharmaceutical industries get money off of? For example, we know this stuff. It's just a fact. That's what their profit incentive is. Okay? So let's get that out of the way. But also, plants contain an exorbitant level of carbohydrates, an excessive amount. Excessive being more than 0. And if you didn't know, carbohydrates causally exacerbate cancer. Since the mitochondria within cancer cells are damaged heavily, they're unable to create energy efficiently, which means that they require up to 40,000% more glucose to function than other normal functioning cells. Now, glutamine, to be fair, is another source of fuel for cancer cells, which is why some ketogenic metabolic therapies do not actually work for some malignancies, but they do for others. But primarily glucose. And glucose itself actually will bind to DNA and promote carcinogenesis by causing mutations to it. And the common denominator for all cancers is DNA damage, DNA distortion. So even though we don't have any causal proof that it causes cancer, one may speculate what they wish with this information, let's just say. So anyway,
has an emphasis on whole foods.
Okay, well, tomatoes and fruits aren't whole foods because they're not food for human beings and they never have been. They're human inventions, actually, for the most part. Not all fruit and not all plants, of course. But that tomato you see right there, why is it that big?
Includes a variety of fresh vegetables and fruits, whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds, says Dr.
All contraindicated and insalubrious compounds containing lectins, oxalates, phytates, tannins, polyphenols, which are not good, by the way. Fiber, a contraindication in the human diet. Binge my channel if you don't know about that yet. Or buy my book, Contraindicated, when it's out.
Right, there it was. That's pretty much what Eddie does. And to take the Frank Tuffanus or Frank Tuffanel view on things, I would have to turn around and say, son, you stole it from me.
Yeah, I know.
Obviously ridiculous. Tell us about your style. Tell us about what, I mean, I know that I've been an influence, obviously, but it's not just that you're a carbon copy of me like some less than intelligent individuals have thrown around at you. Tell us more about how you see the style developing and all of that.
Well, first of all, the obvious truth is some people are just similar to each other. That's what I'll start off with. Some people are very similar, but also what it really stems from is typically what I say on the channel all the time, incessantly, is just so you guys know, it is part of me. This isn't like a complete act, the stuff you saw. It is a part of me, but it's concentrated, isolated, and then inflated for the channel. That is what it is. But the reason that it is even a part of me in the first place is because I think a big contributing factor to why I developed my condition, you don't develop this condition just from, I don't think, from only dietary input alone or poor dietary input. It's such poor development, especially when you see it on x-rays. It's more than that. What I will say, though, is when you're in your developmental years and you eat primarily plants, if you have a genetic predisposition to certain diseases like mine, you're not doing yourself any favors. And what I think happened is when I grew up, I ate hardly any meat. I mean, my first hamburger I had at a Mexican restaurant at 10 years old. That was my first real amount of beef, and I didn't even eat the whole thing. I mean, we're talking about extreme destitution of actual, once again, well, indicated salubrious content, dietarily speaking, for human beings. And so when I reflected on that, I just got angry with the amount of suffering that I've gone through. If even a lick of it is redounded to by poor dietary input, I'm going to get angry. I'm going to get acrimonious with my speech and animose, let's say. Okay, it is extremely infuriating, especially when I see people, because nowadays what you got is, I mean, this may sound slightly hypocritical, but I don't actually think so. And if you, I mean, check out my content, I think that you'll concur as well. What you've got nowadays is you've got an ability to say whatever you want on camera and then upload it online and get thousands of views and thousands of corroborations, let's say, from other people that also don't know what they're talking about. See, before social media ever was a thing, and even before cameras were a thing, if you had erroneous viewpoints and you started to espouse them, the first 5 people around you that knew what they were talking about would keep you in check and shut you up. Okay, because nowadays you don't have that. Okay, some people will try and go in the comments and shut you up, but that's not the same thing. So that infuriated me because I'm thinking, well, now, I mean, on principle, I'm not trying to shut those people down on YouTube. Free speech platform, whatever. But on principle, once again, it is then my responsibility to actually, if I do know something, stand up and say something. So that's what I also decided to do. That was also what gave me the impetus to start uploading on YouTube anyway. It was, yes, my family said, yeah, you'd be great at it. You're very articulate or whatever. And I said, well, yeah, I mean, that's one thing, but being able to talk and knowing something is totally different, whatever. And I
calling people a fuck monkey helps too.
Yes.
Apparently.
Yes.
With views.
I haven't used that one yet. Maybe I'll try that later on.
Or Ask Trumpet. You could have that one too if you like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. But, and, I think you're good at it too. And while, I see what you're doing, yes, there's the character he's playing for his YouTube channel, and yes, it shares some parallels to the character I play on my YouTube channel. It's not a carbon copy like these idiots have been saying. This is not a bloke trying hard to be me, because, Jesus, why would anyone want that? I don't know. So, we wish you all the luck with your YouTube channel, and I would suggest that, if you haven't already, you go and subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't already, you go and like the video. And if you haven't already, you go and share the video. And if you haven't already, you go and subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't already, you go and like the video. And if you haven't already, you go and subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't already, you go and like the video. And if you haven't already, you go and subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't already, you go and like the video. And if you haven't already, you go and subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't already, you go and like the video. And if you haven't already, you go and subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't already, you go and like the video. And if you haven't already, you go and subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't already, you go and like the video. And if you haven't already, you go and subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't already, you go and like the video. And if you haven't already, you go and subscribe to the chann all my Meat Militia should go en masse immediately, of course, over to Eddie's channel and to subscribe over there, because that helps Al Gore with his rhythms to getting other people across, so that Eddie can duly educate them as to their lack of, or their destitution, perhaps, for want of a better word. Who's your favorite YouTube influencer or similar who gets your hackles up and who is a turd of the highest order in your mind?
Paul Saladino, unequivocally, without question. Without hesitation, I'll say Paul Saladino. And actually, I have a video coming out on him next Saturday. Yeah, next Saturday.
Nice.
Because where he says that you should spike your blood sugar and it's totally normal and it's fine to go up to 150 milligrams per deciliter.
Yep. Ah, good. I've already responded to that one.
Oh, you did? Really?
It's the one where he's talking with Thomas DeLauer.
Yes. Yeah, I found that up in my feed, and I said, "Oh, really? We got two of them.
Cool.
We got two of them.
Two birds with no stones." If you get my.
Yep. And I mean, the thing is Thomas is Mr. Anodyne. He will agree with every single guest on his channel, whether they're a vegan or a carnivore. He has no thoughts of his own. And also, what's ironic is, I mean, I've watched your channel long enough to understand that you guys communicate behind the scenes, so to speak, through email, and he will sign up through Cerule with you. I believe it was with you, and then won't promote it because he feels like he would be, I don't know, being obsequious to you or inferior or something. He'd be admitting some obsequious.
I'm not sure. I mean, that he's never actually given me a justification other than, "Oh, I'm recorded 6 months ahead of schedule," and I'm, well, great. In 6 months, then we can put something up if you record it today, or in fact, tell you what. Record a 2-minute video, Thomas, about how good Cerule is, and post that today, because you don't need your crew to help you with that or anything. It's just promoting a product. That's anyway. So that's that. One of these days, Thomas might promote Cerule. That'd be great, since he's got several.
Well, hey, by the way, I do.
Yeah.
So
well, there you go. Tell us about that.
Link,
tell us all about it.
Yeah, my link is on the screen. Usually, in every single one of my videos on YouTube, it is on the bottom of the screen. So if you buy through that, all you do is if you sign up for monthly deliveries, you get 10% off your monthly delivery if you buy through that link. And also, I get a $5 commission, pretty small. So a lot of people are afraid to buy through those links because they think that I'm being rapacious or something, and all that stuff. But it's not. It's pretty small commission. Now it accrues, but I'm not taking that much. I'm not taking any from you, money from you. Actually, it's Cerule paying me. So you should not be afraid to buy through that link. It is something that, once again, I mean, you believe as well as I. We both believe that it's a product that can help many, many, many people. I take it every single day. Stem Enhance Ultra, particularly the flagship product, and I've done that since October of 2022 when I found out about it. And there's been so many externalities and stimuli as to what has effectuated my improvement in disease. So it would be irresponsible of me to say that Cerule is the only thing that did such a thing. Okay, but what I will say is that there was a very strong association within the month of me taking it, where I've had acne for so long and I've never had even a bump of it after taking that. Nothing that I did would change that. And after taking that, association does not equal causality, as we know on this channel, but significant. So I don't know, just a thought. I think that people would benefit a lot from that. So if anyone wants to buy through that, please buy through my link and sign up to be an independent business owner as well.
Absolutely.
So you can do the same thing.
I think being an independent business owner is absolutely the way to go for several reasons. Number one, because at the very most basic baseline, maybe you don't want to pay for your products. Maybe you want them for free. And if you do, here's what you do. You find 3 people to be retail customers who don't want to be involved in that network marketing thing for some reason. They want to pay full retail for their product. So here's what we do. We let them. We say, absolutely, you go ahead, you do that. That's fantastic. And when you've got 3 of those, the company won't charge you for yours anymore. They'll just send it to you for free. Isn't that fantastic? So if for no other reason, you should be an IBO for that reason. And if you just understood what I just said and you reckon you could teach somebody else to do exactly what you've just done, i.e. order some product for yourself and find 3 customers so that you don't have to pay for it, now you're a networker. And now you understand that while you might get $5 per sale, for example, on something, if you have thousands and thousands of people all providing a $5 commission in a month, well, it adds up to, well, a lot more money than YouTube will ever pay us to be YouTube
Right.
influences.
Which for me right now is nothing, of course, because once again, incipient. But we can change that pretty soon, I think, hopefully.
Awesome. All right. So everyone that is not subscribed to Eddie's YouTube channel, go and do that, please. Anyone who is not already a Surreal customer of mine or somebody else's, that's one of my other Surreal people. If you're a free agent Surreal-wise and you haven't bought from anyone yet, go and buy it from Eddie because I'll still get paid. That'll be awesome. All right. What else should we talk about today? We've talked about the carnivore approach having impacted your personal situation hugely. We've talked about Surreal being perhaps that linchpin on top of everything else that can help with a more complete picture. Is there anything else that people need to know in your mind about basically looking after
I was
things?
thinking about talking about my book, which is very, very, very soon to be released.
Tell us about your book.
It is called Contraindicated, a closer look and revision of mainstream health axioms that have perpetuated illness, disorder, and disease for over a century. That was projected to be out by March 1st, which is tomorrow. For you, it's today. But unfortunately, we're having problems with the publishing company. And just side note, if anyone has heard of the Ghostwriting Club, never, ever sign up through them, ever, or else you will have the same problems. But it will be out within the next month, before April. I will make sure of that. And you will be able to buy the ebook, the physical copy, hardcover, softcover, or paperback on basically every platform, including especially Amazon and Apple Books and all that stuff. The audiobook will come later. The audiobook is recorded in my entire voice. I am all about authenticity. I spent a month and a half going out to my car with my microphone in an insulated area and recording the entire thing. So that will be out later on, though. I have to get that has to be processed, the audio and stuff like that. So that is a book that, once again, I spent a lot of time during the, lonely times of my life, the lugubrious times in Florida, spend writing. And I wrote it in about, it took me 2 weeks to actually write the entire thing, because basically what I did is for months I was writing those papers I was talking about. If I wanted to know a topic, I get enough information to write an entire paper about it. And then I just aggregated all the papers afterwards and it made up over half the book. So I recommend that people buy that, because there's only so much information that you can get out in a YouTube video and on a YouTube channel. I mean, it's one thing to binge an entire channel, which is also inserted in there and insinuated in there entertainment, versus actually reading an entire book that is more able to be thought out and meticulously and scrupulously sifted through and perused. So I would suggest going and buying that as soon as it's out. I will, of course, give notification of that on all platforms, and also in the description of every single one of my videos. Also, the ones that have already been uploaded, they'll be in the description for ready access. So that's something else that I want to get out there. The book.
Awesome. The book.
And one more thing, Patreon, of course, as well. Of course, I have to have a Patreon as an entertainer. So there is as low as $1 a month, $1 a month, $5 a month, and $8 a month. Pretty cheap options. I don't think anyone's going to be missing $5 a month, especially $1 a month. So please, you lose more of that money every month than you spend it. So I would recommend that people subscribe to that to gain access to 1 week early uploads, 3 videos per week instead of 2, 1 extra video per week, uncensored, ad-free, and with pop-ups on the screen unblurred. Sorry, references are blurred. So if anyone cares enough, $1 a month at the lowest, $5 a month to get all of those perks, though. That's what I would also recommend. It would help me out a lot, because if I have to give one last message, I just stated that 12 to 14 hours is the minimum drive. Last time it took us 19 hours to get to my treatment, to get to my clinic. That is not feasible. That is not plausible to continue doing. Travel fees are a thing. So what my goals is my partner has a job and she is accruing money slowly. She lives with me, so she doesn't actually have to pay a payment right now in terms of like mortgage and stuff like that. So we're trying to aggregate funds in order to buy a very cheap place at first near the clinic. And since I can't get a job right now, I'm trying to make this my job. So even $1 matters. I've done all the math, and really, I've got it right here. If 334 people subscribe to the $8 a month tier, I'll get there. It'll be enough. But if it's just the $1 a month, I mean, it's going to take more than that, of course. But if you aggregate Patreon, Cerule, the channel as well, I'll eventually get monetization. It just way accruing that much money. So even once again, just altruistically, if you want to send me some money that way, it would be nice. Also through the book, of course. Sorry, can't forget that again. But
so basically, at the end of the day, what you're saying, it's all about the money. You're just mercurial, basically, and
absolutely,
and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Wait, just wait until you've built a bit of a Cerule organization, Eddie, and you'll actually see that it's a very, very serious. Very serious business opportunity, actually, and it can net very serious returns ongoingly without you actually taking advantage of any one person, because every single Cerule customer is very likely going to have their life changed at some point if they stick with it. That's not a therapeutic claim. That's just what seems to be occurring. Anecdotes there. Just anecdotes is all it is. Anyway, listen, Eddie, it's been an absolute pleasure. Apologies for the slight cutting out that's been happening throughout the interview just a little bit, because basically I live out the back of bum in a third world country on copper wire, and sometimes that happens. So that's how that is. Join us next time when someone will be wrong on the interwebs, and Eddie and I will be dealing with them together. That's coming up when we can get our schedules together. So we'll let you know when that is, and we'll probably do it live just for fun. How's that? All right.
Oh, that sounds great.
Cool. Yes. Right. Well, we'll see you all then. Ciao for now. Be good.